thank you for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, as always, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about. Oh, that was not good. Talk about my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, thank you to everybody who's tuning in via Twitter/Periscope, Facebook Live, YouTube live stream. On the description below, there is a YouTube video to my tops, to Kenny Sem, who I'm actually going to be doing a podcast with in just about an hour shortly. But a YouTube video to the top 7 wide receivers in this upcoming NFL draft. 1 is Jaylen Waddle, surprise, surprise. 4 is Rashod Bateman out of Minnesota. And I believe 7, we have Kadarius Toney. So if you want to see who the rest are in that little bit, check out the YouTube video. Check out the YouTube video and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also share this however you're listening to. So here's what we got on the agenda today. NFL draft rumors. My top 10 players for the NFL draft. We're going to talk about Russell Westbrook. Is he actually overrated? Lamar Jackson should he get a contract extension with the Baltimore Ravens? So a lot of good stuff to talk about. So first here we're going to go with this. My top 10 overall prospects in the 2021 NFL draft. 1, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. 2, Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU. 3, Penei Sewell, left tackle, Oregon. 4, Kyle Pitts, tight end, Florida. 5, Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU. 6, Devonta Smith, wide receiver, Alabama. 7th, Patrick Surtain, cornerback, Alabama. 8, Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. 9th, Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle, Alabama. And 10, Micah Parsons, inside linebacker, Penn State. Now, if you look at the top 10, who are my top 10 prospects, I think what's interesting here is so we got 3 quarterbacks in my top 10. We have 2 offensive tackles. We have 2 wide receivers. We only have 1 inside linebacker, and we have 1 corner. So also what I thought was interesting was this is we have 1, 2, 3. We have 3 Alabama guys. We have an Alabama wide receiver, Alabama quarterback, and an Alabama offensive tackle. Alabama is still the king even in my top 10. So again, my top 10, I'll say it again. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Penei Sewell, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Patrick Surtain, Justin Fields, Alex Leatherwood, Micah Parsons. If you're listening right now, tell me, am I missing somebody out of the top 10? Would you have a Caleb Farley in the top 10? Would you have a Jeremiah Wusa-Cormo in the top 10? Would you have a Jaylen Phillips in the top 10? Who am I missing out of the top 10? Or maybe you'd have a Trey Lance in the top 10, a Mac Jones in the top 10. Am I missing anybody in my top 10 overall prospects? I want to hear your answers. So Rookie of the Year odds. So Trevor Lawrence is leading the way at plus 200. At plus 700, you have Zach Wilson, and after that you have Trey Lance. Then you have Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Rashod Bateman, Trey Sermon, Terrence Marshall Jr., Michael Carter, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Kyle Pitts, Jaylen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Javonte Williams, Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Rondell Moore, and Kenneth Gainwell. So out of all these guys, I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson with an outside shot of Jamar Chase. And maybe you could put Najee Harris there depending on where Najee Harris goes, right? But I think Jamar Chase is going to go to the Bengals. Him and Joe Burrow, they had a great connection at LSU. So we're going to see a lot of yards from them. So Jamar Chase is not a bad, low-key, underrated bet. Like if you're trying to bet money, Jamar Chase wouldn't be a bad bet. I think him and Joe Burrow, they're going to make some sweet magic in Cincinnati. And I think it's going to be really good. And Justin Jefferson, you thought Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins were really good last year? Just watch what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow do. I think it's going to be even better. So I think Jamar Chase is going to be squarely in that race. And then you're going to have Zach Wilson. He's going to play an offensive scheme that's similar to the schemes that Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers have played in. Matt LaFleur's younger brother is going to be his offensive coordinator. So I think that's going to lead to some good stats. Also, Trevor Lawrence, I think Urban Meyer and company are going to do the best they can. So Trevor Lawrence can be successful. So right now, in terms of betting, Mac Jones is the favorite to go number 3 to the San Francisco 49ers. He's at plus 1,000. Plus 1,000 is Justin Fields. Plus 200 is Trey Lance. And negative 305 and minus 305 is Mac Jones. So Mac Jones is a big time favorite. Justin Fields is all the way out. Like nobody's expecting Justin Fields to do a thing. Jake shouldn't do a thing for the Niners and for the Niners to draft him. I do think that's the case. I think if you're looking at the rumors, that it looks like Mac Jones and Trey Lance are the 2 guys. It looks like Kyle Shanahan's really into Mac Jones. It looks like their GM John Lynch is really into Trey Lance, and some personnel executives at the San Francisco 49ers front office, they're into Trey Lance as well. It's going to be really interesting to see who gets the third pick in the draft. Who is that guy? But you want to know what? Fun plot twist. Justin Fields at 3. Justin Fields is my third quarterback on the board. If you notice, like I said, I had Justin Fields in my top 10 overall prospects. I had him 8th. He's my QB3, so I actually think he's better than both Mac Jones and Trey Lance. But it'll be interesting to see what happens on draft night. Devonta Smith came on Good Morning Football, and they asked him about him weighing in 166 pounds, and here's what he said. He says, we're not weightlifting, we're not bodybuilders, we're football players, it's irrelevant. Of course, Devonta Smith is going to say that because it hurts his draft stock to not say otherwise. I'm going to take a drink of water really quickly. Of course, it hurts Devonta Smith to not say that, right? Like, you can't say, oh, man, my size is going to affect me. And I think the size will affect him to a certain extent. I think Devonta Smith might struggle a little bit his rookie year. But I think once he figures it out, he's 6'1", he has a frame to get some weight on him, right? I think he's going to be fine. And I do want to say this. This is really interesting. No 6'1", 170-pound wide receiver has ever been drafted in the first round. Devonta Smith has a chance to break that trend. I think Devonta Smith, we need to stop focusing on the size and realize he's a special guy. He won the Heisman as a freaking wide receiver. Like, Devonta Smith is not your normal dude. The fact that he was able to dominate college football at 166 pounds, that tells you how special he is. That's not normal. So I think the fact that you don't think he's going to suddenly be normal in the NFL, I just don't get that. Trey Lance says he's definitely excited to be able to prove people wrong. I think Trey Lance could potentially fall in the draft and have a Lamar Jackson ask around. Let's remember, Lamar was a guy who people wondered if he could throw the football, similarly to how people wonder if Trey Lance can throw the football. Both supreme athletes for the position. Lamar Jackson went to a Baltimore Ravens team that was ready to go, and he's having success. Trey Lance, go in the later rounds, go to a team like that. Maybe goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wait till you're behind Ben Roethlisberger, and then we see the full Trey Lance package. I think depending on what organization Trey Lance goes to, he could have a very, very successful career, even though he is my QB6. The Patriots and the Panthers are looking at doing a trade to move up to number 8. For people like Chris Sims, who I have profound respect for, he has had mock drafts with the Patriots trading up and getting a Jaylen Waddle. Obviously, if they're trading up, the name that comes to mind, obviously, is the report in the last show I talked about, Justin Fields. So I also want to know this. If the Patriots trade up, who are they getting? Do you think they could get a position player, or are they going for quarterback? Because they're going to have a quarterback, Cam, right? They brought Cam back. It looks like they're going to try to run it back with Cam, give him weapons, see what he can do. Or do you think they need to draft a position player? What do you guys think the Patriots should do if they trade up? Or should they trade up at all? Because historically, Billy Belichick does not trade up in the draft. So Jim Harbaugh says that Lamar Jackson, the Ravens will exercise his 5th-year option. I think this is what the Ravens should do. I think that this needs to be a wait-and-see approach. And this is going to be a big year for Lamar. How he grows as a passer. Can they rein back the running, right? Sometimes, use a little bit more passing in the regular season and really unleash him in the running game in the postseason, right? Sometimes I think you need to save your ace up in the hole, right, for when those high leverage moments are needed, like late in games, maybe big time games in the regular season when you're up against teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, and in the postseason, obviously the Super Bowl, championship games, stuff like that, when division titles are on the line late in the season. But I think what's really going to be interesting, too, and what's going to be interesting with the contract negotiations, 1, does he stay healthy? 2, does Lamar show dramatic improvement in the pass game? I think you need to see improvement. Lastly, Russell Westbrook breaks Will Chamberlain's record for the most triple-doubles in a month. He says, I don't think a lot of guys could do what I do. If they could, they would have done it. He thinks he's been underrated and underappreciated. I wouldn't want to say this. Russell Westbrook's been much maligned. I love Russell Westbrook. One of my favorite players. Just a dog, man. Just a dog. I think one of the biggest wrongdoings of his career was Oklahoma City not putting him at the 2 guard. I think he could have been like a Dwayne Wade type if you put him at shooting guard. I think putting him at point guard was never a great move. Putting Russell Westbrook at point guard was never a great move. But I do want to say this, and this is the reality. Russell Westbrook has never affected winning. We saw in 2016, he had good teams, right? He had played with James Harden. He played with Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City. They had a really good team. In 2016, it was him and KD. They were up 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. They lost that lead. The Cavs were down 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. They brought back that lead. Now, you want to know what? If you switch out Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook during that playoff series, each playoff series, the Thunder go to the finals, and the Cavs don't win the finals. I think that's like Russell Westbrook in the biggest, highest leverage moments. He's inefficient. He doesn't make the right plays. Chris Paul seems to make teams better. And Russell Westbrook doesn't seem to move the needle that way. Chris Paul goes to the Rockets, and all of a sudden they are in the Western Conference Finals, Game 7 with the Golden State Warriors. Russell Westbrook goes to the Rockets. They lose in the second round and get swept. Actually, poor men sweep, 5 games. And you see Russell Westbrook, his own team in Oklahoma City. They lose in the first round over and over again. You see Chris Paul, his own guy, in a Clippers situation or in a New Orleans Pelicans situation, they're getting to the second round. One year they went 7 games to the San Antonio Spurs in 2008. Chris Paul should have got MVP, by the way, in 2008 against Kobe. He was like 22 and 11. He was like shooting like 48% from the field. Chris Paul was fabulous that year. But Chris Paul's just always been better. And I think there's been other guys. And I just think that's the issue. Russell Westbrook's never affected winning as much as you would have liked, but great player, and I love watching him. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Share this however you're listening to this on whichever platform. Have a great day. And by the way, check out the podcast that I released today, Defensive Prospects for the NFL Draft. If your team needs a defender, check it out. We have it all timestamped. So if the team needs a safety, check that out. If they need an inside linebacker, check that out. Edge rusher, interior defensive lineman. And also, what I'm about to do with my good friend Kenny Sims, scouting expert for 247 Sports, and I'll release this either tonight or tomorrow, probably more so tomorrow. We're going to do a mock draft. So if you want to see what potential player your team could get, check out the mock draft we're going to do. Going to have a lot of great content coming on the podcast. Have a great day, everybody, and God bless.